Hey guys, I'm Chantal with Growing Up Without Borders, and this is Tara from KiwiAmericans. We're getting together to do another video, and this is part 2 of odd things Kiwis do and say, and odd things you'll see in New Zealand
when you travel here.
So part 1, if you haven't seen it, is over on KiwiAmericans
on my
YouTube channel.
So check that out first, and then come here and watch part 2. It's so good. We had so many things to talk about.
It's awesome. We are Growing Up Without Borders, a family of 5 traveling to every country in the world. It all began with a 5-week trip to Europe back in 2013, which then led to us traveling to now 6 continents and 100 plus countries and counting. Are you ready to join the journey? Let's go. All right, so to continue on, another thing that is quite odd here is barefoot people everywhere.
Everywhere.
So when you first arrived, do you remember your first time seeing that?
Do I remember my first time? Yes, I saw someone walking but it was a child, so it wasn't that old of a child, so they just were walking, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, they don't have shoes on.
Well, I've seen so many kids walking barefoot to school even.
To school, in school, all day at school. I just noticed at church the other day, someone was doing the worship in the front with no shoes on.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
That's so bizarre.
That's interesting, right?
Oh my gosh, this has been probably one of the things that is still surprising me after being here a year, that I still pull out my phone and I'm taking pictures of all of them because I just think
really?
I do, and I film them and I'm like, I don't get their faces, but I'm like, another barefoot Kiwi. Because it's like in the grocery stores.
Yeah, in the grocery store.
In the
That's
US, there's a sign. It'll say, no shirt, no shoes, no service. And here it's like, barefoot, come on and kind of like, welcome.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, especially if you're like a surf seaside town, you could go in with no shirt. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And pajamas. But you said in the US people wear pajamas.
Yeah, they do in Walmart. Yeah. Not everywhere.
But the norm is you don't really see too many people. Like you would see more people wearing kind of fitness clothes in a store.
Oh, yeah, active wear.
Active wear.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's the norm.
So that's kind of odd. Like if you, just...
So if you're coming here, there's bare feet. And why can they do bare feet? Because there's no bugs or insects or anything that can get you.
But you know, like people are worried in the US, like for glass, if there's glass on the floor, and there is sometimes glass on the floor here, but I think they just do it anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but you don't have to be worried. But don't go barefoot in Australia.
Oh gosh, no.
That's a different
world. Or in
world.
Florida, you get ants eating your feet.
Oh my goodness, yes. So you basically can, because this is, there's no animals that are going to get your feet.
Yep. Yeah, all good. All right, another odd thing that I've run into, which is hilarious, is the word tea. Like, so if you're talking about like, come on over for tea, I would expect to come for like a proper tea, you know. And I guess, New Zealand's, brought over from the UK. It's a colony and such.
Yes.
So you would think it's tea, but no, tea means...
Well, it depends on the time of day.
Oh,
what it means.
Okay.
So like you have morning tea.
Yep.
So that's tea or coffee with like a biscuit or something to eat. Then there's afternoon tea, which is also tea or coffee with a biscuit or something to eat. Then there's if it's around dinner time and says come over for tea, that means dinner. That means coming to eat.
And I did the wrong thing the other day. Someone came over to our house. We had already ate. I had already put everything away. And thankfully, he didn't take me up on the offer because I said, would you like tea? Would you like some tea? And he said, oh, no, I'm full. I just ate whatever. And I thought, that is such a bizarre response. I'm asking if you want tea and you're telling me about dinner. And I thought, oh, maybe he's too full to have a glass of, like a cup of tea, And it wasn't until after he left. And I thought, what if he said, sure? I would have been like, well, there's no food. Like,
right. I've been invited and say, come over for supper. And that means dessert.
What?
Because if it's after 9 o'clock, it's supper and it's dessert. Or like a small thing. Like a warm milk or a Milo before you go to bed.
Interesting.
They eat a lot here.
And they also call pudding dessert. So they say, oh, I'm going to have pudding. Well, I would just assume it's like a pudding, but it actually means dessert.
No, pudding just means...
Isn't
No,
that
I
funny?
know. That was
like,
so weird.
There was a couple and they're like, oh, we're having pudding, come sit with us or whatever. And then when they got their dessert, I was like, that's not pudding. What are they talking about? And that's when I clued
Pudding
in.
is dessert.
It must mean something else.
Yeah.
So funny. Oh, this is a big one. There are, okay, it's quite rare to have a
Quite
dryer.
rare. Yes, to
in
have
New
a dryer
Zealand.
in New Zealand.
So that's odd if you're coming from the US because every single house has a dryer and a washer. You don't live without a dryer. You don't hang things out on the line.
No,
Hardly.
in fact, you can't in a lot of neighborhoods in the U.S. Like, it's like if you have like the neighborhood, you know, there's like that board that runs your subdivision and they don't allow it because they don't like how it looks, how it makes your neighborhood look. You can't always even do it.
Interesting.
No, it's true.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's more.
I've never hung my clothes out in the U.S.
No, I know we don't back home.
Because there's different temperatures in different states. So, like, if you're in Florida, you know, where it's warm all year, Texas, maybe you would see it more. But, like, you know, where I'm from, it's cold and you just don't.
You just don't do it. And people don't like stiff towels. They like the fluffy towels.
They like the fluffy
so,
towels.
you know.
So that's weird. I mean,
is
sometimes at the most you would see them hang out like sheets in the U.S., but that's about it. And it's just still weird, and you always kind of like, oh, those are weird people that hang out there. So for me, when I first came here, it was like, what do you mean I have to hang out all my clothes? Okay, a couple things about that. First of all, Americans have about 5 times more clothes than New Zealanders, okay?
Oh, yeah, they
so
do.
to even think about hanging all of your clothes out on a line is like, what? And then the fact that, like, am I hanging out my bra and underwear?
And everyone sees it.
Like, that's weird to me.
Because we lived in Europe, it's so normal.
Okay.
But I will say one thing. It's actually therapeutic.
Oh, it is. It's very relaxing.
Like, relaxing.
I do enjoy it. Yes.
I don't like folding and all that, but I really enjoy like putting out the clothes and then putting it in order.
Yes, and there's tricks to it. So in the middle of so there's a lot, there's like a circle of area to hang up, right? And so in the middle is where you put your bra and underwear no one sees, and then you build everything out around it so they don't see it. That's what they do here. That's their trick, which I didn't know. I was like, but some are just straight across, and I just see everybody's business. But they just don't care.
It's just normal.
Normal.
Yeah. So yeah, expect that when you come. All right. Another thing that I would say is quite odd, extremely odd, is it's the middle of the winter. And Kiwis wear shorts and t-shirts. Like, their blood has to be different or something because it's just...
They don't feel the cold.
No.
They live cold here. If you just look at their houses aren't very warm. They haven't figured out the heating.
No, and so
They're
they get
just
used
being
to it.
cold.
And
Yeah.
I'm always like, cover your child up. You know, like in certain countries, the saying is like, oh, if you get cold, you're going to get sick. Well, that does not apply here in New Zealand. No. So it's bizarre. It literally could be winter time. Okay, granted, there's no snow outside. But it's still cold enough to be like close to 0 and freezing, and they'll wear.
Yep, shorts and t-shirt.
Yep, crazy.
It's really fun trying to get your kid to wear pants when everybody else is wearing shorts.
Okay, an odd thing in New Zealand is active volcanoes.
Yes, it's odd.
It's really hard to get used to it. It's hard to like fathom that at any point the country can just kind of explode.
Volcanoes. You never know.
Yeah.
So so some of the big, like some of the great walks here or the hikes are around volcanoes, and I've been where they have warnings of how active the volcano is, and then sometimes I've gone where they've said, we don't recommend that you walk at your own risk or whatever. As you know, people in 2019 exploded on White Island.
I know.
And they had warned them to not go, and they still went, and so just, it's odd.
Well, and it's
They're
also
active.
the one thing I found strange, and it's quite hilarious actually, is they had like a meeting point in case of like a volcanic eruption, and I'm thinking, who's gonna come meet you? I'm like, who's gonna stand there and be like the dumb tourists? Like, okay, I'm waiting for my rescue people to come. Like, if there's like an active volcano, you gotta like boot out of there.
Yeah, things are flying everywhere. You're not just standing there. Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. I never thought about that.
I was at like one of these like thermal active volcano kind of places where the whole ground is kind of like poofing up at you, and I was just like, this is so funny.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
I love that.
You may have heard this already, but something that is quite odd is that New Zealand has more sheep than they do people.
Yeah, they have so many sheep, you guys. Like, when you come here, like, it's just sheep everywhere. Sheep will just cross the road wherever. Lots and lots of sheep.
Must be good business, but it is quite odd because I've
they
never seen
export
that.
most of it.
Yeah.
But they, sheep is just everywhere. Like, you just open your window and you hear, bah.
Yeah, you wake up some places
You're
and
in the
like,
middle of the city and you hear
full.
it. Yeah, you're just like, okay,
They're everywhere.
Sheep everywhere.
They're quite nice.
They're nice.
You walk
I mean,
on
it's
hikes
nice.
and you see them beside you too. It's pretty.
I know. They're not the brightest animal.
I
They're cute.
All right, so it's not really an odd thing, but it's like a common thing. Yes. And it is something that I like.
But it does feel odd, honestly, sometimes. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say like meat pies.
Yeah, meat pies. It's odd. When you think of pie, you don't think of like savory meat.
Yeah, no, you don't actually.
You don't. So it feels very odd.
But they're everywhere. They're at every dairy, which is a corner store, grocery store, like a 7-Eleven. And they're really good.
They're at all the petrol gas stations.
Yep. And they have competitions for who's the best, so you know which one to go get.
Yeah.
And there's all different flavors.
All different flavors.
And everyone has them for lunchtime. And it's about maybe $4 US or less, like around $4 US
$4, yeah.
for a meat pie. And they're really filling and like quite addictive.
Yeah, they're really good. I didn't eat them for a while. And just so you know, like a lot of them are literally just meat and cheese, like solid meat and cheese. So that's a little bit weird because it's similar to like a chicken pot pie that you would have in the US.
Yeah.
But that
like
always has a lot of vegetables in it. So it's so interesting to me that a lot of the meat pies just don't have vegetables in it. Some do, but like a lot of them, the main ones don't. There's mince and cheese, which is ground beef and cheese, or steak and cheese are the two most popular ones.
Yeah, I love them. But yeah,
they
everywhere.
are good.
Do kids have that for lunch at their schools?
That's a good question. Some of my kids' schools have like bakeries at the school that sell it, and they do have it. But sausage rolls are probably more popular for kids in school, which is also something that's odd here.
You know, it's something that's a little bit different that I haven't seen anywhere. Is like these like pop-up cafe kind of trucks or stands, almost like a food truck, but it's a coffee truck that you see on the side of the roads everywhere. So, and people congregate around them, like even students, young kids go in the morning and they get their little drink. I don't think they have that back home.
No, that's a great one. That's very odd.
Yeah.
Like you just like, it's like you're driving down the street and it's just the most random thing. It's just like a little coffee cart.
Yeah.
But it's packed certain times of the day. People going to this coffee cart.
Yeah.
People are crazy about their coffee.
I guess because they don't have like Starbucks at every corner.
No.
Or Tim Hortons if you're in Canada. Like,
right.
So this is their version.
Yes, and the coffee is so good. It's so much better. So yeah, so good.
100%. Okay, one thing
that's really odd is that you don't have to carry cash in this country. Like it's very common for you to see that New Zealanders are not carrying any cash at all because they have PayWave. They have like where they just go with their card and it takes it out of their say either checking account or they can use it as a credit card.
They tap everywhere.
They tap everywhere. So nobody brings cash. So it's just good to know that like you can pay at cash, but some will only take FPOS because it's just they don't have the change.
FPOS, is that like?
Yeah, FPOS. That's a good question because I remember people always said that.
Yeah,
that's just
I still don't
that's
know.
just that just means like a debit. So it's taking out of your credit out of your checking account. It's not a credit.
Interesting.
So you have to actually have cash in your checking account.
Oh, I see.
So it's like that.
Oh,
so they don't have to pay the credit card fees.
Yeah,
So,
and a lot of places will actually add on a credit card fee if you want to pay. So, for example, my card only runs as a credit card in New Zealand, even though it's a debit card. So I have to always run it as a credit, but a lot of people are like, oh, sorry, we're going to add on the 3%. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, you know.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But it's just good to know if you're traveling here that it is a little bit odd that everything is, you don't need to use cash. So I would say the banking system here in New Zealand is quite advanced compared to the U.S. Like there's no checks. They haven't had checks in how many years?
Oh my gosh, there's so many countries that do not have checks.
Yes,
like
and
Canada
it's like
and the US
ridiculous
are so
that you
far behind
have
with that.
checks. It's ridiculous. We move money between people's accounts. It's so simple.
People give the bank account number all the time.
Give it out.
You just give your bank account
It's
number.
fantastic.
And you just
you guys,
you can direct deposit into someone's account at a machine.
It's life changing. It's actually life changing.
Yeah.
When I lived here for 2 years, I moved back to the U.S. and had to deal with checks and not doing the bank account situation was absolutely
seem so
painful.
old-fashioned to
It's
write
so
a check,
old-fashioned.
put it in a mail? Like, who does that?
Yes. And so like people will say, like when I've said like, we have PayWave all over New Zealand. I mean, when I say PayWave, like almost everywhere, everybody will take it. But they say, well, we have Apple Pay in the U.S., but it's not the same.
No.
Okay, it's not the same. So, and it's not everywhere, and it's not where they scan it.
It's not linked to your bank account like
it's
direct.
Just,
it's not.
It's just like this, and it's so fast, and it's so efficient, and it's so great. So yeah, banking in New Zealand is great.
So I think that's pretty much it. Like I said, like if you haven't seen the others, go over to KiwiAmericans to check it out. comment below if there's other odd things that you can
Yes.
think of, because we would love to know, and it's always fun to see the comments of you Kiwis watching. What are some other things that maybe are so normal to you but odd to all of the rest of us who are here?
Right.
But yeah,
That's great.
make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you
Thanks
next
for watching.
time.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.